Tania Doko, welcome to noise11.com. Great to see you and great to hear new music in
Paul,
2023.
yeah, every 5 years I need to see you at least, and have another. I never need a good reason to catch up with you, Paul. I'm so heartened that I want to say you're still around, but you're not just still around. You're thriving.
Well,
When I get to talk to my old mates like you, who's still going, I think yes, surviving and thriving still.
yes. Well, you did move away from us in that time. You're a New
I
South
did.
Welsh. What's the term? New South Welsh woman?
Welchian. Well,
Welshian.
I want to. Well, let's just say let's make it easier and say I'm a virtual Queenslander because I'm very close to the border now. Hence my decking.
Yeah.
Look, I'm keeping it real for you all. On the deck, we're renovating. There's bits of the roof falling apart, but we're onto it because we're renovating. But no, it's wonderful to talk to you in a t-shirt in the middle of winter from virtual Queensland with new
Thanks,
music out.
thanks. She rubs in while I'm in the jumper in Melbourne.
I'll always be a Melbourneian, so I need to make a big deal of such things.
Yeah. Well, there's been quite a bit of new music this year. Two songs, Calling Out Your Name with Bachelor Girl earlier in the year, and the solo song Harder Now. When
Well,
have you been one and when have you been the other?
one must divide their headspace, into categories, of course, but Paul, they were both written in Sweden, actually. So I think 2011 I moved over and I moved back 2021, just in the middle of COVID. And in that time, I did create a lot of new music, most of it for other artists, with other artists. But Calling Out Your Name and Harder Now were both in the back pocket, one for Bachelor Girl, one for me. And it was just a case of, when were the right times to release them. So when Darren Hayes called Bachelor Girl to support him the tour earlier this year, we thought, great, let's bring that one out. And now that that sort of, simmered away and calmed down, I can actually put my solo hat back on after many years and have released Harder Now.
The Darren Hayes tour was quite big shows too. That was a great way to introduce yourselves back into the year.
Yeah, it was great, Paul. Been a long time friend with Darren, and obviously his shows, some of it were, built on nostalgia, and a lot of it was his new record. And same with us. Obviously we played all our tunes that have been loved through the years, and then we got to kind of, showcase Calling Out Your Name. We also released Speak a couple of years ago before that too. So we've been teasing new material, Bachelor Girl, for some time, but until I really moved back to Australia, it's difficult. We're very much in the same studio kind of band. We need to feel each other's chemistry. And life is busy and we're all wearing a million hats. So it's best in the same room.
Because I guess, you did the Darren Hayes tour. We had that 3 years. I can't remember what happened between 2020 and 2022. There was something that happened then, but, it seems to have escaped my mind at the moment. But just prior to that, that would have been, I think the last major tour you would have done would have been with John Farnham.
Yes, it was Day on the Green. So I remember giving Farnham a hug backstage, and he was still singing just ridiculously well, giving him a squeeze, and wondering if, I don't know, I had an instinct how much longer he could do that for at that level. So we all know what he's been through of late. But yeah, that was the Day on the Green 2018. Then I had a bit of a stint on Eurovision shortly after that. That nearly killed me, can I tell you? That came about because Paul Clark loved Piece of Me, and as a songwriter, I said, sure, let's use it. And he's like, oh, but do you want to do it yourself? I'm like, oh my goodness. And of course, because I'd had so much love for Eurovision and it was around me so much in Sweden, of course, I thought, okay, this is interesting going into the Australian mix. And when I heard Ella Hooper and Kay Milahike and Shepherd were in, I thought, oh, okay, let's do this. Let's have some fun. And we did. We certainly did.
living in Sweden for all those years. What prompted? Why? Tell me the circumstances of how you got to live in Sweden in the first place.
Well, look, it got to the point where around 2010, I either, and I'll tell someone like you, Paul, because I can be very candid and frank with you, even though this is, getting out to the masses too. But I mean, feels like it's just you and I. But the truth is that it got to a point creatively, like, yeah, love Bachelor Girl, but I wanted to try different things, right? Permission to try. But also, if I tried some other things, like I had She Said Yes, which is an electro rock band, it was difficult to also grow and expand on that because people wanted me to keep going with Bachelor Girl. So I was kind of damned if I did, damned if I didn't. So I really wanted to dive into songwriting and just couch the artist world altogether, because really there's to me, no more creative way of existing. Okay, what's the brief today? Or what's not the brief today? What are we going to write today? Who's got an idea? Who's got a line to, share something someone's going through? And literally every day it was, I got to play. Now we had to have some discipline with our writing, but it was a truly creative time in Sweden. I'm not saying being an artist is not creative, but they're not all fantastic interviews like this, if you know what I mean. Like it can be self-promotional, social media takes over. And look, we're lucky to be able to reach so many people with social media, but it's not the 90s where you did one thing and saw, were on one TV show and 3 million people saw you. Lucky us. That was a fortunate place to be. So I found that very just draining, not the reason why I'm an artist and not the reason I'm a songwriter, right? So I needed to go and do that creatively. Then towards the end of, like 2018, 2019, my mother's getting on. I've got the only grandchild. I miss investing in my own songs, like literally telling my own stories. Little voice in my head says, Tan, you need to make another record. And you're going to do it with Bachelor Girl again and solo. And here we are in 2023, and I'm just managing to ride both to some extent. Like one thing at a time, but I feel like I've got all the hats on, which is a nice place to be.
So when you go out with Bachelor Girl, and there are shows coming up for Red Hot Summer in 2024, will you have the opportunity to mix the solo and the Bachelor Girl into the one show?
Ooh, red hot question, Paul.
You have to get James in a headlock for that, don't you?
I do. Yeah. No, I don't know. That's a really good question. I think because we're doing such a short and snappy set, can't really be indulgent. I do believe they are separate projects. Perhaps when we're doing a super long show of our own, we might throw in a Doko song. But essentially, we're going out with Boom Crash Opera in September and November as well, and then with Simple Minds in Icehouse next year, and they will just be no filler, if I can just say. And then I've got my own shows where I get to play in that domain and do my whole EP, which is coming out in a couple of months, and some great tunes I've always loved, to fill out the set a little bit. In my own realm, where I'm my own CEO, if you like.
Yeah. Those Red Hot Summer shows will be fun. I know, being on tour with Simple Minds is going to be, I no doubt you'll be standing side of stage watching a lot of those shows.
Oh, going to be drooling. when the agent called and said, you got the Simple Minds tour, I nearly fell over. And this is the great thing about those shows that, we recently did a show with Leo Sayer and Billy Ocean, and I was right in the front row, just sycophant to Billy Ocean, and he was almost giggling at me, thinking I was hilarious, But it's so life affirming to do, and song affirming to do those shows where you are a legitimate fan, and you're, whether you're the entree or the main course or whatever you are, on the same bill. It's very, very cool. It's a reason to keep playing live, very much.
There was the Duran song you covered at one point too, wasn't it? Was that because you were a fan of them?
Oh God, yeah, love Duran. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't ever decide between Duran and Spandau Ballet. I was one of those, both. Love those guys. And yeah, Come Undone was the song we got to do. Actually, we came on board that project, that tribute sort of record to Duran quite late. So we didn't get sort of first divvies on their hits. But turns out the Come Undone is, if you're a real fan, real Duran fan, that's the one that you love. So we got a lot of love and attention from serious Duran fans for that cover.
I'm surprised that one was still available.
I know, and it was, and yeah, and actually, if you Google, you can find us on Google. You can find the audio, but I think somehow the Spotify version it's not available. Like you can't actually download it. Maybe it was just a limited time that it was downloadable or streamable. But in any case, yeah, I'm surprised too because it's a ripper of a song.
Yeah. And it was also the title track of the album, wasn't it? I think it was called
It
Come
was.
Undone. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Well,
I've come undone many times, Paul.
Just going back to Sweden, you actually had a big hit in Sweden, didn't you, with Buses and Trains? So did they know who you already were when you went to live there?
Don't you know who I think I already was? Yeah. The thing is that the song was very loved in Sweden, yes. Big radio hit and did chart very well. So one of the reasons I chose Stockholm was, yeah, I won't lie, was because there was some currency there for me. But of course, I couldn't rest on my laurels. I needed to actually be good in the studio. So, but it's funny because when I first started working in Sweden, we were in this time of EDM and extremely straight, clean singing. So my, shall I say, more husky, erring on a little bit more rock vocal tone wasn't all that accepted. I had to learn how to be a session singer, in a sense, to pull off all sorts of different voices. Like when you're a songwriter, you're not allowed. You can't just be you on the record. If you're pitching to Rhiannon. I'm thinking Fleetwood Mac.
Rihanna the singer, Rhiannon the song.
Goodness, I did that as well. But or Kelly Clarkson or whatever. You need to sort of emulate a little bit. But thankfully, the tides turned, and I could be a bit more myself, and just sing from the heart towards the end, and not please sound half your age, or sing with your mouth closed, or. And that's when I did start to commit to, yes, I really do want to do a solo record, which is when I met Matthias Lindblom, who produced and co-wrote the record with me. And he was the one that really sort of gently but firmly kicked my butt to say, you know what, you're still an artist. You need to release records.
So Harder Now is the prelude to an album?
Yes, it is. It's a mini album. It's an EP. What is the long form of an EP? Like, how do you say? Is it? Oh no, sorry. What does EP stand for?
Extended play. So an EP is extended from a single, and then an LP is extended. It's long play. So you've got single, EP, long play.
Okay. And you corrected me before about vinyls being.
Look, you got yourself in because that was before we started the interview when you said vinyls. Okay.
And sorry.
Had to correct you out on that one, didn't we?
Okay. Can you say EPs?
Plural of vinyl is vinyl.
Okay. Is EPs correct?
Well, extended play. So if you had two EPs, yes, you can have two EPs, you can have two LPs, but you can only have one vinyl or multiple vinyl.
Thank you for that grammar lesson, Paul. So yeah, the Harder Now is the first single to the EP that is called The Beauties in the Broken, and that will be out end of September.
Okay. All right. So you've
Yeah.
got a very busy September, October, and through to 2024. So if you've got the EP coming out, you've got the Boom Crash Opera Tour, you've got the Simple Minds Tour, you won't be seeing a lot of that deck over the summer period.
No, that's why I'm celebrating my deck. Give me a home with lots of gum trees, out on the deck. Yeah, and I've got a very aptly titled song, No Sleep, on the EP. There'll be a lot of no sleep in the coming months. But, Paul, I'm very quick to correct my, in case I sound like I'm whinging, I very quickly, scramble out of that rabbit hole and say, no, this is a beautiful life, creative life. Don't get overwhelmed by calendar. Just be here right now talking to you, meditate the crap out of every day and stay present.
Yeah.
That's all you can do. Just be in the now.
Yeah. And what happens to the family when you go on the road?
They get abandoned. No, a Swedish hubby is excellent. He's very good. He's very organized, and I think it's lovely to be in beautiful nature up here in northern New South Wales. I'm a Melbourne girl through and through, but I now go to Melbourne, go to Sydney, tour East Coast, etc. And I'm working, and when I'm here, I'm very much mama and get everything done within, while Leo's in school. So I think it is a pretty good existence. I think there is, if you can have balance in life, if that even exists. I don't think it does, but you can pursue balance, and I think we're doing okay in that regard. Yeah.
Well, we do miss you in Melbourne, but I'm glad you're having such a good lifestyle up there.
Well, look, I say to my Melbourne people, I actually don't talk about the weather up here because it's cruelty.
It is.
I can't talk about it, but it's so consistent. I wonder if I'm ever going to get bored of it. Like, okay, another sunny day. It's just a cliche, but it's good for the vitamin D. And I invite my Melbourne. Look, half of Melbourne and Sydney are already up here anyway. Yeah. It's a very changed landscape. Like the actual populace is very urban now.
Yeah. Well, it's been good to catch up. Good to see you, and great to hear the news.
Good to see you, Paul. Good to see you, Paul. Thanks for your support always, and may it not be another 5 years.
Please hang up and try again.